Nor is it the doer of deeds who will say that I could have done it better. And it is certainly not the individual who can point and say, see that the strong man has stumbled. No, the credit actually belongs to the man or the woman who is in the arena, who tries and fails and get up and tries again and again. The one whose face is covered with mud and blood, but keeps trying. Because in the end he knows that he will enjoy the great enthusiasms of high achievement. But if he fails, he will fail while daring greatly. Good morning, Anniston.
Good morning.
If I was in to greet you in Australia, I would say, good day, mate. And if I were in Gay Paris, I would say, bonjour, mes amis. But I'm here in Anniston, so I say, how your mama now? You young folks don't understand that. As Veteran Day approaches, I asked, are there any veterans here today? Any NAM veterans? Welcome home, brother. Welcome home. On the walls in Washington, D.C., there are 58,195 names. They are both black, white, Asian, and Hispanic. They are black and white from Alabama. They are your sons, they are your husbands, your brothers and uncles, relatives, and friends who have answered the call of their country and gave their last full measure of devotion. Fellow freedom rider Charles Person and I wore the uniform of the country. We served in Vietnam during the same time. He was in the Marines and I was a medic in the Army. That's right, two African American freedom riders who became American warriors, American freedom fighters. So Charles and I ask you, we humbly ask you, that the next time that you're in the nation's capital, we want you to visit that wall, and we want you to find the name on that wall, any name. We want you to touch it and call out to him. And if you are able, find the place for him deep inside of you and keep it with you. And be not ashamed to tell him you love him, though you may not always have. Learn well the lessons that he has taught you with his dying. And pray his prayer that the day will soon come when brave men will be unafraid to say publicly, war is insane. And as you leave, give him a backwards glance as you leave for the places that he can no longer go. And turn and say a fond, sweet farewell to those gentle heroes that you leave behind. Will you do that for Charles and me? Will you do that for all of the veterans? I am a freedom rider. I am a Buffalo soldier. I am my grandfather's grandson and my father's son. And like them, when the country called, I answered the same. And like them, I shared the same hope that the day in America too will come when I could enjoy the freedoms that I went far off to fight for others. I was 19 years old when I joined those 12 others, 6 blacks and 6 whites, on May 1st, 1961. We boarded 2 buses in Washington, D.C., heading through the Deep South to test what the Supreme Court had said that outlawed segregation in interstate transportation. And like that soul in the poem, we stepped into the arena to fight the evils of segregation, American apartheid. And we arrived in Anniston on May 14th, 1961, and on the script, on their script, the Klan firebombed our bus and held the door shut so that we could not get off of a burning bus. The Klansmen attempted to burn us alive for simply sitting integrated in the front of a bus. They brought with them their wives and children, all dressed in their Sunday best, to witness the event and the murder of the Freedom Riders. But what was not in that script of the Klansmen, what was not in that script was that a hero would emerge. A hero who entered the arena to fight for justice. And while her neighbors gathered to watch the attempted murder of the Freedom Riders, Janie Forsythe became the bravest white person in Anniston. Defying the stares and the glares and the admonishment of her Christian adults, Janie came to our aid to bring us water. It was as if the Lord said, "My children are hurting, and I need an angel to help them." And Janie replied, "Here am I, Lord, use me." Janie was only 12 years old, and she became the angel in Anniston that day. Thank you, Janie. Thank you. You are forever in my heart. Yes, it was Janie who heard the sermon preached in church about Christian love and fellowship. It was Janie, 12 years old, who put into practice what she had learned in church. It was Janie who taught adults who would listen that it is a child that who will lead them in the path of Jesus' word. It was Janie. And so, Mr. Mayor, as I asked you last night, and I'm asking all of you here, recognize this hero. Have a Janie Day. Ministers in the church preach a Janie sermon. And little children, I say to you, say to yourself, I want to be like Janie. Charles Person, you on that second bus that stopped in Anniston that fateful day. And he and 3 others were beaten and dragged to the back of the bus by the Klansmen when they refused the Klansman order to move to the rear of the bus. And their bus rolled into Birmingham, where another mob was waiting for them. And they again were beaten by the terrorist organization known as the KKK. And Charles, too, if you never knew it, you are my hero. Charles later served as a Marine officer, fighting for the rights in Vietnam that he did not have here in Anniston. This is a remembrance of history, not for recrimination. But Anniston, you ought to know that had Charles Person come back here with the Medal of Honor around his neck, he would not have been served in a restaurant or gotten a hotel room. Charles, you're my hero. Let's remember history, but not for recrimination. The Tuskegee Airmen, who never lost the American bomber to German fighters, had to endure the humiliation of seeing German POWs at Aliceville get more respect than they got. Germans who killed over 48,000 American airmen We're able to go into restaurants here in Alabama. We're invited into churches here in Alabama. And the Tuskegee Airmen, who never lost an American bomber to a German fighter, got disrespected. Remember history, not for recrimination. Such was the American South. Such was Alabama. Such was Anniston just 51 years ago. The Freedom Riders, the anti-segregation movement, caused America to do some real soul searching. And I too now can say that I am now proud to be an American. But it was in the jungles of Vietnam that I first was seen and identified as an American. And you ought to know that the first wounded soldier that I gave first aid to was a young white soldier from Alabama. And when I approached him on the battlefield to bind up his wounds, he did not call me a nigger. He called me Doc. Doc. Remembering history, not for recrimination. The dedication of this part today is decided that you in Anniston have decided that you're not going to let the events of 51 years ago define who you are. But you will look upon Janie and say, that's who we are. Janie Forsythe is who we are. You're telling the world and the Klan that not Anniston, that the Klan was not Anniston, but Janie is Anniston. And Janie and Bill Harbor and Native Son do represent the best of this region. And it is my wish and my prayer that this project will unite both communities, black and white church communities in this city. It will unite them and remind them, as Janie did, that they need to practice the Christian beliefs, that the Sunday service hour may not be the most segregated hour in the city of Anniston. I thank the rest of my fellow Freedom Riders for being here today, and indeed, I appreciate your presence. The country has changed. It has changed much since Charles and I boarded that bus from Washington, D.C. 51 years ago. When we boarded that bus, we were in search of the American dream, that elusive American dream, the dream whose preamble states that all American citizens have the right to expect equal treatment and justice and treated with dignity and respect. And I can proudly say to you that after 50 years, that dream has lost neither its tone or its tint. Yes, Charles, it still stands a glimmering through the veils of yesteryear. It still waxes a wondrous beauty. A beauty that has been coaxed by smiles and watered by the tears of joy and triumph. Of those 13 original Freedom Riders, only 3 of us are still alive. Just a week ago, Genevieve Hughes Halston passed away from us and slipped into that sweet darkness. Dave Dennis and I had an opportunity to go to Carbondale, Illinois, where she was in the hospice there. And we got a chance to spend a day with her and tell her how much we loved her and tell her how much her life has meant not only to the Freedom Riders, but to this country as a whole. We got an opportunity to do that. Over the years, if we've lost Freedom Rider after Freedom Rider, I have attended many wakes and funerals, and I have lifted my glass to their memories. For memories are all that I have left of them now. And memories, they don't leave like people do. They always stay with you. And it is sometimes in the evening of my memories, I go visit some familiar places. I go to Birmingham. I go to Montgomery. I go to Selma. And Lord, I come to Anniston. And sometimes in the evening of my memories, if I listen vainly, I can hear the refrains of some of those old freedom songs. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me away. Keep your eyes on the prize. And we who believe in freedom will not rest until it comes. And that song that has become the anthem of oppressed people all over the world, we shall overcome. As we gathered in Jackson last year, it was so good seeing old friends. As we gathered on Oprah's show, it was so good seeing my old friends. And so, as we come here today, we can remember fondly the springtime of our lives. We can remember so fondly that in the springtime, our music was still in us, and our song was yet to be sung. And so we gather here today, men and women who are indeed deep in the autumn of our lives. Our steps are a little bit slower. Our shoulders are slightly bent, but we feel good. But we feel good. And so we know, so I know, Charles, all of us know, that day will come. And we must cross that river and go join and dance with our ancestors of the Middle Passage. And when we are summoned before the village elders to give an account of our time here on earth, we can tell them, Anniston, we can tell the village elders, as they said in 2 Timothy, we fought the good fight. We completed our course. And we kept the faith. Here in Anniston, we kept the faith. Once again, I want to thank the people who put this park together, this whole idea together. And I would like, albeit for me to say what should be done here, but I want Janie Forsythe to certainly be the center point of that park. Because once again, whether you knew it or not, Anniston, she represented the very best of what you should have been about on that particular day. Again, let us hear it for Janie. I think I'm going to need the help of my wife here. I've lost my page here. I wound it up. I'm not going to keep it longer. Everybody knows. I don't have to say it, everybody knows. But just in case, that is the lady who for all these many years has played the music that makes me dance. As I take my leave of you, please listen to the words of Thorough Thurston. I feel that I have lived. I have the joys and pains of strong friendships. I have served and been served. I have made enemies of which I am not ashamed. I have been faithless, and then I have been faithful until the blood, faithful and steadfast, until the blood runs down into my shoes. I have loved unselfishly with the ardor of a strong heart, and I have hated with all of the power of my soul. What awaits me in the future, I do not know. I cannot even imagine, and I am glad for that. But already, I have touched the four corners of the horizon. And far from searching, it seems to me that tears and laughter, love and hate, they make up the sum of life. So therefore I wish for each of you, a loved one, a child, a grandchild, or a friend who loves you, even though they really know you. And that you learned, as Janie learned, that giving away love freely without strings attached is the surest way of receiving it in return. I thank you.